first of all, I want to compliment the entire efforts of the DRDO and the private industry, which has gone by making this a totally indigenous missile. And I want your viewers to know this missile has been developed by Bharat Dynamics Limited, Bharat Electronics Limited, Larsen and Tubro, Tata Advanced Systems, DRDO, and more than 200 medium and small scale industries. So it is a great leap into the indigenization, as we call it, Atmanirbhar Bharat. So, starting from that, this missile is one of the layers in our air defense capability. As you saw in Operational Sindoor, how the Akash missile was part of our air defense capability along with Akash Tir. This Akash missile is a step further than the Akash new generation missile. And why I actually say that is because we did not have this kind of a capability in a high altitude environment. This missile is basically going to be deployed in a high altitude environment, which is characterized by low oxygen, low pressure, and extremely high altitudes in excess of 18,000 feet. The peculiarity or the technical characteristic with this missile brings to fore is it can carry out targeted attacks onto an altitude of around 18 kilometers. And if you translate it into feet, it is almost 59,000 to 60,000 feet. But that implies that apart from the fighter aircrafts, because the fighter aircrafts are not going to fly at such high altitudes, because in mountains they don't have the capability to fly at such altitudes. But in terms of ballistic missiles from the adversaries, cruise missiles from the adversaries, and drones. So we find a multi-role missile with us, which can target our your adversaries who are going to launch all these missiles, drones, aircrafts at us at a very fast speed. And that is one of the great characteristics of this missile, because it itself travels at almost 3 to 3.5 Mach speed. That makes it into a supersonic missile. The difference from the earlier Akash missile is that this missile has an active radio frequency seeker, which is embedded onto its front end. So what it implies is that it is not only seeking targets which are being fed by a centralized ground radar, it is seeking targets as it is progressing towards the target. So no target can escape this missile, and that is why the hit probability of this missile has enhanced from 88% to more than 92%. One more important characteristic of this missile is its warhead. The warhead is high explosive fragmentation. And what I mean by that is that when this missile is approaching its terminal target, it has a proximity fuse. That proximity fuse, once it gets actuated, it is going to break the warhead into a number of fragments. And that is why this missile has a capability of addressing a number of targets, simultaneously. For example, I'll give you, if you have a battery which has, 4 launchers, and each launcher can launch 2 missiles at a time. So when you fire your four launchers, you have put eight missiles into orbit. These eight missiles, firstly, are going to target, eight targets, simultaneously. At the same time, when it's fragments into a number of targets, you can address a drone attack, a swarm drone attack, because that is what we saw in Operational Sindoor, where the Pakistanis had launched more than 100 drones. So now you have a capability, you have a missile which can address a number of drones at the same time and with a very high kill probability. So the crunch points, as far as I can actually summarize this actual missile, is that it will function in a high altitude environment, a low oxygen, a low pressure, high altitude, and with a very high kill probability, giving the enemy absolutely no chance to survive.